Hey, everybody. It's time for T-shirt on the tube. T-shirt on the tube. T-shirt on the tube. T-shirt on the tube. How's everybody doing? How's your weekend? I am going to be reviewing Married to Medicine Season 7. It premiered tonight. It was a pretty good first episode. My pen just fell. It was a pretty good episode. My energy's a little low. I'm a little tired. I'm a little irritated because I'm getting bit up by bugs. Ugh, I hate bugs. I hate summer. I want summer to go. Like, mosquitoes love me. It's irritating. So, yeah. So, the show opens up, the season opens up with this new podcast with Heavenly and Jackie, and it's called Open and Honest. Okay. And they're pretty much talking about girlfriend code violations and all of that other stuff. And the three main points that they're talking about is shutting out your friends, belittling each other's husbands, and accusing friends of, I guess, things that they that's either true or not true. I don't know. So the podcast has pretty much everybody up in arms and like uncomfortable a bit because they felt like it was messy. Because remember in the reunion last season, Quad had said that Mariah was a cokehead, and then Mariah had said that Quad was messing with her sister's husband, and just all kinds of messy tea. So Heavenly and Quad meet up to go to this place called Sweet Spot, and they're there for vaginal hydrotherapy. I swear, these reality TV people, they have nothing else to do. They just be randomly going to get their vagines steamed, colonics, Botox, blood facials. Like, they be going to do some of the wildest stuff for entertainment. I digress. But yeah, so Quad is pretty much talking about the status of her divorce, and she's like how her and Dr. G are just in the final like decisions with coming up with an agreement so they could seal it and, you know, be on with divorce and whatnot. So at the same time that they're at Sweet Spot, Toya, Mariah, and Simone are out to eat, and they're discussing Open and Honest, and they were like, you know, Simone is bothered by the stuff that Jackie was saying about I want to say Cecil, about the situation with Cecil, and you know, she feels away because it's pretty much like it was a Twitter war between Cecil and Dr. Heavenly, and Heavenly is just like, you know, I'm going back and forth with Cecil, and I shouldn't be going back and forth with no man. The women should go back and forth. But I'm like, whether y'all realize it or not, y'all include y'all husbands in y'all mess. Y'all include them in y'all mess. So when the husbands jump in and they have an opinion, you can't really be mad about that because y'all include these men in this problem. So Heavenly doesn't feel like Jackie was wrong in anything that she's saying. Simone is pretty much upset with Heavenly because she feels like Heavenly broke girl code, because there's some stuff that Simone confided in Heavenly about, and Heavenly went on Twitter and pretty much aired it out, which I can't respect that. I say it all the time. I don't do the keyboard thugging. I don't do the exposing people on the internet. Like, I feel like that's the most tackiest, dirtiest, low down thing that you could do to a person, especially if that person is your friend. Speak to them in private. Handle your situation in private, because when you take it to social media, you now have an audience, and people that are the audience, they live to be entertained. If you have an audience is there to be entertained. So it's the same thing. You're putting on a show for a bunch of people who don't know nor care about you. So I'm with Simone on this one. The whole going back and forth on Twitter and whatnot, tacky. Y'all have each other's numbers. Call each other and curse each other out. That's respected, okay? Pull up to each other's houses and have a heart-to-heart. That's respected. Stop the keyboard thugging. And I pray to God that I highly doubt it, because people that have social media feel like because they have social media, they're big, bad, and bold, and they could, all the attention is on them. They could say what they want, but you don't realize the stuff you say on social media can be dragged into real life, and you could get yourself hurt in these streets. I'm just saying. So, yeah. So Heavenly is saying that she's planning an event for Dr. Damon because he's opening up an ambulatory surgical center, and Toya, Simone, and Mariah are contemplating going because they're not really in a good space with Heavenly, especially Mariah. We know Mariah and Heavenly cannot stand each other, but Simone and her situation with the whole Twitter thing, she's feeling away, and Toya is just in the mix because she doesn't like her relationship. Like, these relationships is just like taking a turn, and you could tell that there's a divide amongst the ladies. It's a weird air. So now we get to Jackie and Curtis is getting like an IV drip or something because he had food poisoning from eating bad wings, which I can relate to that too. I remember I can't eat Buffalo Wild Wings for that reason. Every time I eat Buffalo Wild Wings, I get sick. It messes up my stomach something bad. I don't know what ingredients they use, but I had, when Buffalo Wild Wings first came out, I tried their food. First time I had me in the bathroom, like near death. Second time, I tried a little piece of food, had me in the bathroom, fighting for my life yet again. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's what I'm getting. So I ordered something different. Still, no matter what I eat at Buffalo Wild Wings, jacks up my stomach. So yeah, you got to be careful with some of these places, because some of these places don't, like, they use stuff that they may be, like, your stomach may be sensitive to, and like it's certain ingredients, and then they could use a bad batch of stuff and not realize it's a bad batch. Who knows? But yeah, you gotta be careful. Food poisoning is real, and it's not fun. So Jackie is pretty much like, me and Curtis have chosen to move forward, despite the situation with, him and him cheating and all of that. Excuse me. Energy's low. I had an eventful weekend, so I'm sorry. So she's pretty much chosen to move forward in their marriage. They bought a new house because they were going to build the house, but I guess they found it easier to buy a house, to gut out and renovate. And Curtis is like, well, if it's the perfect house, why are we gutting it out and renovating it? And Jackie is like, I want to make it ours. Like, it's ours. I want to make it ours. I want to gut it out, renovate it. This is our forever home. Okay. Nothing wrong with having a forever home, So now we get to Contessa and Scott. So Scott is pretty much being Mr. Mom. He's taking the kids to school. He's like, this is hard. Shopping for girls is hard. It's hard to buy skirts and socks and matching shoes and all of that. So he has a little taste of what Contessa goes through being a working mom. And that's hard. Not to say fathers work and they take care of their kids too. Some, not all, but shout out to the ones that do. You're loved. You're appreciated. But yeah, he's getting in the swing of being Mr. Mom while Contessa is away at Nashville getting her, I guess, degree in public health because she wants to be senior, I think she said general, senior something. But she wants to do public health, and Nashville has the best schooling for her to do so. So she's going to school in Nashville, but she goes, I guess, like 2 days out the week to school, and then she flies back to Atlanta to be with Scott and the kids. So Scott pretty much is, telling her, catching her up and whatever. And, she's telling him, well, I have some tests, but I'll be back home on Friday. And he's like, I can't wait to see you or whatever, which I think is good. I don't think that just because you're a mom, you should stop living your life. You should stop making yourself better. I honestly feel like, because I'm also wanting to go back to school to get my degree, and I feel like it would be a great moment for my kids to see, well, mommy went to school, so, and she got her degree, and she, she did her accomplishments, and she graduated, so I want to do the same thing. Like, it's setting a good example for your children, and you're laying down the foundation for them, So I think it's cool that if you have a baby or whatever, don't let that stop you from going to school. Doesn't matter how long it takes to go back to school, school will always be there. So I applaud Contessa. Going to school in another state, that's a lot though. So now we get to Toya and Eugene, and they're checking on their house that they're building, and renovations, everything is coming along, but they have to rush it a little bit because they have a date where they have to be out of the house that they're currently living in, because right after they hit the 60-day mark, on the 61st day they're moving somebody else into their house. So they have 60 days to get this house together so that they can move in. And it's a lot of things that aren't done yet. Like Toya does not have doors to her closet. There's a lot of walls that's still not up, but progress or whatever. And due to budgeting and compromising, they were able to get out of debt. They were able to keep a healthy budget, put money towards their forever home, and life is pretty good for Toya and Eugene. So Eugene is pretty much like, you got to be on these contractors. I want to see more progress. I want to see more work being done. I want to see the house nearly finished so that we can move in. We have to move in, or we're not going to have a place to stay, because once the 60-day mark is up, we won't have a place to live. So Toya's like, all right, I'll be on the contractors, and we'll just see how it goes as well as the progress. So now we get to Simone and Cecil, and they're having like a family date night with the boys, and Michael is learning how to drive and whatnot. So Simone is like, they're all back under one roof, because Simone had a north house and a south house in Georgia, and that's when her and Cecil was going through their, little tiff, but they've resolved it. They're planning, they're all under the same roof, but Simone is so overwhelmed with how nasty and dirty the boys are, but they're boys. Boys feel like they're not dirty. They feel like, if I leave my socks on the floor and my dirty underwear, blah, 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 this is my room, this is my, this is my domain. I know where everything is. So, Simone was like, we should have just did date night by ourselves or whatever, jokingly. So, Cecil now changed career paths. He's no longer working his former job. He's now a real estate agent, and he closed on a house being a new real estate agent. So that's an accomplishment. He revealed that he was laid off from his previous job, but in addition to doing real estate, he helps Simone around her office as her part-time executive assistant, and it pretty much helps. It helps with their relationship. It helps, with the bills in the house. So it's working for them. So, they were talking about Michael taking his SATs, and Miles went to Howard University, but he pretty much had a gap year because he left. Something happened with Howard. I guess, first of all, I can relate to the story because Michael, was going to Howard University, and I guess it just wasn't his thing. It wasn't for him. So he came back home, and they enrolled him in Georgia State, and he's actually doing better at Georgia State. Now, even though Howard University, good college, okay? Good, I think it's a HBCU. So, but sometimes these colleges, not every college that's, big named and all of that, it's not for everybody. And that's the thing with college in general, school in general, because, I applaud everybody that goes to school, that decides to go to school when it's their time. But what I notice a lot of parents like to do to their children once they graduate high school is that we like to force them out the house to go to college. And 9 times out of 10, children are not ready to go to college. Like, they were legit just in high school. Like, they literally had to, go from here to there when the bell rang. And, they were just children. So, that's a weird transition from high school to college. And if you're not ready, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So, I feel like kids shouldn't really be forced to go straight to school after they graduate high school. But they do have to do something. They do have to, if they're not going to go to school, or if they are going to go to school, at least go to school part-time. That way you're not wasting your money as a parent. They're not wasting their time in school as a child. And y'all are both happy. But they must have a job. That's a must. They must work. Because you can't just live off your parents' dime. You are now an adult. You should be introduced. Financial literacy and all of that. These are conversations I'm going to have with my kids when they get older. Because I know from experience, I don't think it's good to send a kid to school straight out of high school if they're not ready for it. So, but yeah, him being in Georgia State seems to be working out better than him being at Howard or whatever. So, um, that's a plus. So now we get to Dr. Damon's event, and Simone and Cecil are riding with their friends. I guess these are gonna be new people, kind of sort of added, like recurring people added to the cast of Married to Medicine. And Simone is pretty much giving them a heads up, other people, and she's like, this is a dysfunctional group of friends. So you might, you might be in the middle of shade. You might come across some shade. You might hear some shade. It's whatever. So Mariah and Heavenly are pretty much throwing subtle shade to each other. Mariah's throwing shade at Heavenly's event, calling her red carpet burgundy, dirty, dingy, and ghetto, and all of that. And Heavenly is pretty much talking about Mariah and how she's a devil, and asking why would she bring her sister there after Quad said what she said about her sister in New York. And I'm like, y'all are all at this event just being fake fraudulent and you look so pretty. But y'all throwing shade like a mofo in these confessionals. So everybody's arriving. Mariah feels a way about Jackie from the podcast because she feels like Jackie kind of reignited the whole cokehead rumor thing. But Jackie doesn't feel like she said anything wrong because Jackie's like, I pretty much said what was already said. This is pretty much stuff that was already said. I'm just asking how people felt about it. But see, what Jackie fails to realize is, even though you're just asking about it, you're pretty much fanning the flames. Like, it's already lit, but you're like making the fire bigger than what it is. So Heavily pretty much, she feels tension from Cecil and Simone. And she's like, well, I feel the tension or whatever. But it just is what it is. Cecil has something to say to me on Twitter or whatever, and I clap back, and it just is what it is. So, excuse me. Quad arrives wearing all white. She looked nice, but she had on all white, little white furrow, little bedazzles in it. And she's on a, red carpet because her and Heavenly are like best friends now. So when she walks inside the party, her and Simone literally did this to each other. It was crazy. So Simone is like, yeah, I see. She just walked right by me like she didn't know me. It's whatever. I would appreciate you not saying nothing to me because I don't need the fakery. And I'm like, hey. So Contessa and Scott arrive. And Damon is pretty much giving everybody a tour of the surgical center. And he's very proud of his accomplishment because it's a black-owned business. It's his business. So he's very proud of how far he's come. Heavenly's proud. And Heavenly is like, I went and got my vagina steamed just for this night, and I'm going to get on my knees. And I'm just like, what? Like, I think it's cute that, you are submissive and y'all marriage work or whatever, but Heavenly, this is uncomfortable for me, but you like it, I love it, whatever. So Eugene actually revealed that he used to work for Damon years ago, like 13 years ago, like when he I guess got into the field of medicine or whatever. Damon offered Eugene a job because I think he quit his job, or he's something. But Damon offered him a job and he was working within a week. So, he's very grateful for Damon, and he's very proud to see the accomplishment of him open up his own surgical center. So all the ladies are now together in this setting, and it's like weird, awkward tension between everybody. You can clearly see the divide. Toya, Simone, and Mariah on one side, Jackie, Heavenly, and Quad on another. Contessa is just I don't want to say Contessa's in the middle because Contessa has her gripes with people too, but she's not really on a side, honestly. So they're discussing the podcast, and Jackie is like, well, I wanted the podcast to be something for us to discuss. And Mariah is like, yeah, but y'all went and y'all did this open and honest podcast, and y'all are talking about things that y'all are, that y'all are guilty for. And I feel like you're fanning the flames with this whole situation with me and Quad, saying that I'm I'm a cokehead and all this other stuff. And she's like, but I'm just saying what people already said. She's like, yeah, but you're letting your slip show, meaning you're being just as messy as you're trying to say we're not being messy. So then they started talking about the Twitter beef, and Simone is like, y'all are going back and forth or whatever. That's my husband. So Heavenly is like, well, your husband should not be inserting himself into women's business. You know, that's like some bitch shit or whatever. And when she said that, it reminded me of that season where Nene got at Peter for inserting himself into their business, and she said to Peter, you need to stop putting yourself in women's business. You need to stop being a bitch. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but I don't want to say but here's the difference. Peter does and still does insert himself into women's business, but I feel like Cecil was attacked on the podcast because of stuff that Heavenly has told Simone, number one. Number two, stuff that Heavenly has seen on the show. So she said that that's where she violated girl code. Because instead of saying it to Simone or whatever, you brought it to the podcast. And probably everybody on the podcast didn't even know that this is what was going on. So I can understand. It's a difference. Cecil came at Heavenly because Heavenly came at him. So somehow Contessa and Toya got into it, and Contessa is like, girl, your husband came at Simone when we was on vacation or whatever. And she's like, well, don't talk about my husband because your husband is the definition of a big ass bitch. And I'm like, oh shoot. So this just turned ugly. So Jackie is like, well, I don't understand why the Open and Honest podcasts are making the ladies so uncomfortable. These are a can of worms that you open on your podcast, because your whole podcast is the reason why this discussion is happening. So, Jackie, even though you try to make it seem like it's not shade, you do classy shade. Jackie does classy shade. Jackie does not do messy shade. She does classy shade. Because some of the stuff she says is very classy. It's nice, nasty. And you catch it. So, they're just deciding to table the convo, leave it alone. And they're like, we'll just talk about the tension. We'll just talk about everything and iron everything out later on. This is not the time or the place. Let's go get a drink. Let's leave. Blah, blah, blah. So, Mariah pretty much tells Scott that Contessa called Eugene a bitch or whatever. And Toya tells Eugene that Contessa called him a bitch. And he's like, how am I a bitch? What have I ever done? And I'm like, yeah, what has Eugene ever done? I haven't really seen him do much, but the only thing, I think Contessa still feels a way because Eugene had called them the N-word like a couple of seasons ago. But he apologized for saying it, and I understand her frustration about it, but y'all can't sit up here and be mad because what he said was kind of the truth. Y'all were acting like nuts at that party. So it pretty much left off of there, and I guess this season is just going to be trying to, like, get the relationships together. Because, like I said, it's a big divide in the group of ladies ever since the reunion last season. But, I mean, it was a pretty good season premiere. The season looked like it's going to be good. And, like I said, I'll be reviewing it. Y'all tell me how y'all enjoyed the season. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend about Tisha on the Tube. I said Tisha on the Tube. Tisha on the Tube. Tisha on the Tube. Thank you so much for watching, tuning in. I will see you in the next video. Later.